Canada has a long tradition of welcoming people seeking a better future. We'll leverage our existing programs so that everyone, including newcomers, has access to the quality jobs, homes, and supports they need to thrive. Welcoming immigrants, workers, and students is vital to Canada's prosperity. At the same time, we need to balance the number of new people coming to Canada to avoid adding pressures on our housing, infrastructure, and social services. This is why we have taken a more comprehensive approach this year. This plan will pause population growth in the short term to achieve well-managed, sustainable growth for the long term. This year, we're not only reducing the number of permanent residents we invite to stay in Canada, but we are also expanding the levels plan to include temporary resident arrivals. Canada will work toward decreasing our temporary resident population to 5% of Canada's total population by the end of 2026. Our goal is to process 80% of new applications within our service standards. This allows for expected delays in complex cases or when we need more information from clients before we can finalize their files. However, if there are more people who apply than available spaces, it may not be possible to achieve this goal and processing times may increase in some categories. In addition to the number of admissions allowed each year according to our levels plan, processing times vary due to a number of factors like type of application, how complex it is, and if it's complete. We continue to digitize applications and use automation technologies to speed up processing while protecting and prioritizing the safety and security of Canadians. Many immigrants who become permanent residents are already living in Canada as temporary residents. These people are skilled, educated, and integrated into our society. They will keep supporting the workforce and economy without placing additional demands on our social services as they are already established with housing and jobs. We're working on more options for temporary residents who would like to stay and become permanent residents. Over 40% of permanent resident admissions for 2025 are expected to be people who are already in Canada and contributing to our communities. When temporary residents already in Canada decide to stay permanently, they help to maintain a stable population, support our workforce and economy, and reduce additional pressure on our infrastructure. Recent examples include the 2025 Permanent Resident Pathway for Francophone students in minority communities, the Gaining Experience category of our caregiver pilots, and the Canadian Experience class of Express Entry that prioritizes people with a year or more of Canadian work experience. Immigration is vital to our economy, and immigrants are making important contributions across every sector. They not only fill labor gaps, but also help expand and grow new businesses in our country. Immigration is vital to our economy, and immigrants are making important contributions across every sector. They not only fill labor gaps, but also help expand and grow new businesses in our country. Francophone immigration plays a crucial role in strengthening our national identity and supporting our economic prosperity. There is also a need to restore and grow our Francophone minority communities outside Quebec. Our plan continues support for these communities by making sure that 8.5% of overall permanent resident admissions are French speakers in 2025. We want to respect the equality of English and French so that communities and people who speak either of those languages benefit from immigration. French-speaking newcomers contribute to the economy, society, and culture of their local community as well as the entire country. We have options for them to settle in vibrant and thriving Acadian and Francophone minority communities with infrastructure, services, and activities that allow them to live their lives in French. For example, we have recently launched the Francophone Minority Communities Student Pilot, announced an upcoming Francophone Community Immigration Pilot, and expanded our Welcoming Francophone Communities initiative. The Immigration Levels Plan breaks down the number of people Canada plans to accept by category. While we've always set the number of permanent residents, this year we're also setting targets for temporary residents by category. October 24th, 2024, Ottawa Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, is pleased to release details on the 2025 to 2027 Immigration Levels Plan. The Levels Plan includes permanent resident targets and ranges under immigration categories of economic, family, refugees and protected persons, and humanitarian and compassionate, and other. The 2025 to 2027 Levels Plan also includes, for the first time, temporary resident targets for international students and temporary foreign workers, constituting a new holistic approach to manage migration. Temporary and permanent residents play a key role in supporting economic growth, addressing labor market shortages, and contributing to the diversity of communities across Canada, including Francophone minority communities outside of Quebec. In recent years, Canada welcomed newcomers to support our economy and address labor market needs. As we move away from post-pandemic measures, there is a need to better align temporary and permanent resident immigration levels with community capacity. The 2025 to 2027 Levels Plan adopts a whole-of-society approach to be responsive to needs of newcomers and Canadians, including through consultations with federal departments and agencies, provinces and territories, municipalities, Indigenous peoples, stakeholders, communities and Canadians. To ensure a well-managed migration system, the government is reducing the share of temporary residents to 5% of the total population by the end of 2026. A series of measures have been announced over the course of the past year to achieve this goal, including an intake cap on most study permit applications and an amended cost of living requirement for students, eligibility changes to post-graduation work permits and to work permits issued to the spouses of international students and foreign workers under both the International Mobility Program, IMP, and Temporary Foreign Worker, TFW program. Additional measures applied to the low-wage stream of the TFW program were also recently introduced to better align the program with current labor market conditions. In keeping with these reductions, targets for new temporary resident arrivals are set at 673,650 in 2025, 516,600 in 2026, and 543,600 in 2027. These figures represent work and study permits issued to new arrivals to Canada. The target in 2025 for international students reflects the previously announced study permit cap, new arrivals only, and represents 45% of overall new temporary resident arrivals. In 2026 and 2027, international students make up the majority of temporary resident arrivals at 59% and 56% respectively, while the remainder of the arrivals will be allocated to temporary workers under both the IMP and TFW program. These targets support the needs of our labour market and Canadian employers, especially in sectors that rely on temporary workers. Targets for temporary and permanent residents have been developed in tandem. It is anticipated that more than 40% of overall permanent resident admissions in 2025 will be students or workers already in Canada. The 2025 to 2027 Levels Plan projects a decrease in overall permanent resident admissions to 395,000 in 2025, 380,000 in 2026, and 365,000 in 2027. Supporting the Canadian economy continues to be a key priority of this Levels Plan, as the economic category represents the largest proportion of admissions each year, reaching nearly 62% by 2027. A greater share of economic admissions are allocated under federal economic priorities to skilled workers, with a focus on critical sectors such as healthcare and skilled trades, in recognition of the importance of supporting these sectors. An emphasis is also put on ensuring that admissions are dedicated to facilitating transition to permanent residence for those who are already in Canada as students and workers under the In Canada focus. Support for family reunification continues through the family category, which maintains a rate of 22% of overall permanent resident admissions. Canada's strong and proud tradition of offering protection to those most in need is evident through the sustained targets for government-assisted refugees, which contributes to the resettled refugees and protected persons category rate of 15% of overall permanent resident admissions. 21,200 admissions are provided to commitments made on humanitarian and compassionate grounds, and/or as part of public policies by the Minister of IRC over 3 years. In line with IRC's 2024 policy on Francophone immigration, the Levels Plan includes higher proportions of French-speaking permanent resident targets outside Quebec of 8.5% in 2025, 9.5% in 2026, and 10% in 2027, in comparison with the 2024 to 2026 Levels Plan targets of 7% and 8% in 2025 to 2026 of overall permanent resident admissions, which improves demographic representation across Canada.